Don't mind the dog hair. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Jay, this is Comfy Fat, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite questions of all time that I get asked probably the most often, and that is, are you a boy or a girl? This is a question that is asked of me probably every few days. I get this on Instagram, on my blog, in my emails, on all of my social media, and I just want to talk about why it's frustrating. So just to start this off, I want to say that first of all, I don't know everything, but I know a whole lot about gender. I have a bachelor's degree in social work, which provided me a lot of training on diversity and social justice, and you kind of have to go through 101 basics about different marginalized identities like gender, sexuality, disability, race, and age in order to be properly trained to do social work, because you have to work with people of the most marginalized communities who need the most help. So just when we're starting to talk about gender, we know that gender is more of a spectrum than a binary set of two options. For a long time in Western culture, we thought that there was just male and female, and that was it. Then we started to get into discussions about how gender is more about how you feel and who you are as a person. You may have seen or heard people talk about how gender is up here, and sex, that is assigned sex based on what doctors assigned you at birth, is more about your genetic makeup, your biology, and your genitals. When we've done research into gender and other cultures, that is other than Western culture, we've found that other cultures have been having more than just two genders for a long time. There are indigenous communities who actually have something called two-spirit, which is an entirely separate gender from male and female, and that is sort of embodying characteristics from both genders, creating an entirely new one. And that doesn't mean it's equal parts male and female, it means it's specific to a person, but it is a third recognized and respected gender. I'm not here to sit here and relay research to you. I don't have all the resources, but you know who does? Fucking Google. So I just want to talk about why being asked, are you a boy or a girl, is bothersome, offensive, disrespectful to me. I have listed almost everywhere that I'm non-binary and that I use they, them pronouns. There are certainly people who identify and live within the binary of male and female and who feel like their gender, what they feel like inside, totally represents and is in alignment with their assigned sex at birth. The reason we call it assigned sex at birth is because really all of these words that we're talking about, whether it's gender, sexuality, even other words to describe people and things, is that everything's a social construct, right? We create things to have meaning and represent the culture that we're in. Our language evolves to represent us. So when someone has a baby and it pops out, a doctor basically assigns a gender to that baby based on their biology, their internal organs, their external organs, genitalia, and other factors like chromosomes. But remember, we have learned that there's more to gender than sex. When people ask me if I'm a boy or a girl, it comes off as they're asking what's between my legs. They're asking me what kind of genitalia I have. They're also asking me what I was born with. They're asking me what can they expect to find. And I'm not sure what their intentions are for asking. A lot of time it's men on the internet, and I think maybe they want to know because they're curious about me, and I can't really explain where it's coming from for them, but I know that it happens a lot from a lot of men, and I can only think that it's because they want to know if they're allowed to be attracted to me. When you ask someone this question, or rather when I'm asked this question, it feels like an intense breach of privacy. It really feels like you are imposing a curiosity on me about something so deeply personal and intimate that you don't have the right of information to, the right to that information. Whatever I'm trying to say. Think of it this way. If you got a new coworker, right, and they come into the office and you're like, hi, I'm Joe. What's your name? And you can't really tell if they're a boy or girl. Would you ask them that? Think about it. You stick your hand out and you say, hi, I'm Joe. Are you a boy or a girl? It feels disrespectful, right? It feels like, first of all, ew. Second of all, there's more than just two. And thirdly, why do you need to know? Because what you're really asking is, what kind of genitalia do you have? Are your titties supposed to be sexualized or not? Can you go topless at the beach or not? You wouldn't ask that, right? Because that's uncomfortable. The thing is that this kind of question really only matters if we're still gonna allow asking if you're a boy or girl or what kind of genitalia you have. The only people that should really have that information for me in my life are my medical professionals who need to know biology related things to inform their way of giving me healthcare, or people that I'm sleeping with who may or may not care what I've got going on. And I for sure can guarantee you that if you're asking me if I'm a boy or girl on the internet, I am not sleeping with you, for damn sure. The other thing about this is it just feels like you're trying to find like a plot hole in my identity, which is disrespectful and invalidating of my experience and who I'm saying that I am. I'm putting it out there and you're saying that you don't trust that, you don't think that it's valid, and it's dehumanizing for you to take that away from me and think that it's not important to respect what I'm saying that I am and who I'm saying that I am. I'm just sort of rambling because it's on my mind, and it's getting continuously frustrating, and I can't figure out if I should just delete everyone who asks that, or well, not everyone, every message, or should I block everyone who asks that? I feel like there is a level of ignorance and also maybe some cultural differences. I think that tackling this starts with talking about it and talking about why it's offensive. I'm really not trying to be mean in doing this. I just think that my voice matters and my opinion matters, and people are feeling what I'm feeling when they're asked these questions. So there have been people who have been ambiguous to me that I couldn't figure out what their gender was or how to approach them, how to talk to them, what kind of pronouns they used. And for me, it doesn't necessarily matter. I treat people how I would want to be treated, and I prefer making connections with people if I want to date them rather than finding out which category they fit into. But if you're wondering how you can talk to someone and what kind of pronouns you should use for somebody, the way to ask that question is by simply saying, what pronouns do you use? That's really the easiest, kindest way to ask that question and to find out what pronouns you would use when speaking to or about that person. If someone comes to you or answers that question and says that they use they, them pronouns, best to just respect that and make a commitment to practicing and learning rather than find a loophole or way out of it. The discomfort that you feel about trying to change your language is not more important than the discomfort that the other person feels by being constantly misgendered and constantly fought on their pronouns every single day. Your discomfort with they, them pronouns is far less uncomfortable than what non-binary people and people who use they, them pronouns feel every single day, that they're misgendered, that people intentionally and unintentionally use the wrong pronouns for them, and for people who try to find plot holes in their identity. If you want more information on they, them pronouns, Google it. I mean, there's a lot of info in there. You can say, like, you can look for info on how to talk to youth. You can look for info as a parent, as a coworker. There's a lot of info. I'll put links in the description below for the blog posts I've specifically written about these topics. And please, for the love of all things holy, if you find yourself wondering if you should ask that question, are you a boy or a girl? Stop. Think to yourself, why am I asking this question? What am I hoping to gather from the information that I'll receive? Am I invalidating anybody's experience? Am I asking a question that's potentially far too personal for this interaction? And then go return to Google and educate yourself. Remember that language evolves to represent the culture using it. So even if your argument is that they, them pronouns aren't grammatically correct, there are now many dictionaries that include they, them singular in their definitions, and you can look that up. That's free information. And also, when you think about it, we already kind of use that. For example, let's say you're in a guidance office at a high school and somebody left their backpack there. One of your coworkers says, oh, whose backpack is that? And you realize it's almost the end of the day and you say, wow, I don't know. I really hope that they come back and get their backpack because they're gonna need it for their homework. We've used this for all of time to describe people that we don't know what their gender is. And that's kind of how I want people to refer to me, in a way that says, I understand that your gender is not easily defined by boxes and doesn't go in a binary category. And I'm hearing you and saying, okay. I mean, if my 5-year-old niece can understand this and easily be corrected and keep moving on with life when she makes a mistake, because mistakes do happen and that's okay, then you can understand it too as an adult. That's my little rant on gender and being asked if I'm a boy or a girl. So to answer your question, are you a boy or a girl? No. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hearts and rainbows. Bye.